21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. Before I do this review, I know this is a little bit personal, but it does pertain to these reviews in general. If you want to skip to the review, the time around which that happens should be found somewhere around my breast area at this very moment. I've treated these videos like a full-time job, having listened to and reviewed and uploaded the videos of 16 different books in the last month alone. I've been looking for a full-time job in sales because I think that is where most of the stuff I'm learning can best be applied in its own context. And if it's applied and I learn even more, then the knowledge and the value in my brand and everything is gonna compound like crazy, okay? It's gonna compound a lot. Getting a new full-time job while you're working at your current full-time job itself, I'm starting to think, is a full-time job itself. And I think that because of this, next week I will be taking a break from these videos, and if it requires 2 weeks, I'll do that. But one thing is for sure, I will get a sales job by 2020. There are so many other areas that not having a sales job is negatively affecting in my life. And all of those areas of my life, all the areas of my life need to be handled faster than humanly possible, or I'm gonna go insane. If you know my content or you've watched the last minute or so of this video, maybe it's a little bit evident that I'm probably already insane, but just remember, water does split rock. Okay, I'm sorry, I really just needed to get all of that out of my face. I really appreciate you guys so much. Make sure to smash that like button if you haven't already, if you're still watching, for the YouTube algorithm, and let's get into this review. So, there are many authors who have put out work on leadership, like Brené Brown and Simon Sinek. But I'm convinced that John C. Maxwell is like your favorite leadership author's favorite leadership author, if that makes sense. This book is about the laws of leadership that can transcend time, place, culture, and situation. If you follow these laws as the author proposes, people will follow you. Like I've said in other reviews, I know that I recommend lots of other books on my channel, but the one thing I recommend most is finding one book that can help you through the biggest challenge in your life at this very moment, and reading or listening to it on repeat, like maybe once a month. I did this for an entire year with Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm now doing it with How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I also do listen to the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone every 6 months. It used to be like every week. But I do that to kind of keep myself in check as far as, you know, big thinking. And that's just me. What's the greatest challenge in your life that you are facing right now? For 3 whole years, I'm 22 years old. That's a lot of years for someone who's 22, at least me. I spent all my time in denial of it. And it really took so much curiosity on my part to really end up changing that direction. Enter the cave that I knew in my guts was holding the treasure that I seeked. And just really go in. About a month later, again, I've put out 16 audiobook reviews. That's a lot more books than I've ever listened to in a month. So think about the biggest challenge in your life right now, and whatever it is, look for the best book. The best book. Just keep watching out for it, just keep listening, keep learning, and dive into yourself to face that challenge. Because your persistence and belief in yourself is ultimately what will break you through everything in your path. And by everything, I literally do mean everything. Even nature. So let's talk about I have to get that out of the way too. But I feel like that, to a degree, really does also pertain to this review specifically. Now let's really talk about the 21, the Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Law 1 has a silly name to it. It's got a ring to it. It's the law of the lid. Your potential as a leader is as high as the lid that you place on it. He talks about those who naturally have no lid and those who naturally have low lids and how they can raise the lids and kind of break through them. Law 2 is the law of influence. In this law, he talks a little bit about the myths and misconceptions of how to build influence. And of course, why influence is important. Law 3 is the law of process. And I was really kind of just talking about this, but it's about how things, they go one day at a time. A woman working at the IRS only made $3,000 a year. And 50 years later, when she died, she had a fortune of over $22 million that she donated to her local synagogue. John C. Maxwell talks about his, day-by-day plan for personal growth that he came up with and how it came up. I mean, until next week, I will have been doing 4 book reviews a week, but I want to just keep going and going and going, and it's all about momentum. Law 4 is the law of navigation. What I love so much about this book is probably the simplicity. I think this law should have been called the law of strategy because he tells us about the consequences of not having a strategy or sense of navigation and why we need to. Law 5 is the law of smashing that like button if you haven't already for the YouTube algorithm. No, not really, but you should smash the like button. Law 5 is the law of addition. If you are adding the right value to the right people's lives, you're doing the right thing. If you're not 100% sure that you are, you're probably not. And you should probably go to a leadership doctor to get that checked out. That was sarcasm. I don't think leadership doctors exist. I didn't hear anything about them in this book. Law 6 is the law of solid ground, which I would have just called the law of trust. But he does kind of drop the names of the Nixons and the Clintons in it. Law 7 is the law of respect. He tells the story of a woman who started out as a slave, but she grew through the law of process, and eventually everyone knew her and knew that she was like a master leader. What I also love about this book is how it kind of tells a story about lots of different people in different laws. You like wonder who those people are until he finally says who they are, and you're like,
wow, that is the story of McDonald's. That's how that happened.
Law 8 is the law of intuition, where he tells the story of Steve Jobs, of course, and how after he left Apple and came back, some of the best decisions he made for and in and with the company really just blew Apple up. Law 9 is the law of magnetism and how you are who you attract. It reminds me of something I said in my A Lot remix from 21 Savage and J. Cole.
Cause you can believe me, I tried not to propel the people who I tend to attract. The bird of a feather flock together, how do I know what kind of bird I am?
This is tricky. Maybe you can say the same about yourself, but I think my personality, at least, tends to come in so many different layers that seem to disagree with each other constantly, that to organize everything and come to one definitive conclusion on what to do and why, I just find that very difficult to do sometimes. Law 10 is the law of connection. Brené Brown really dives into this in her books The Power of Vulnerability and Dare to Lead. Law 11 is the law of inner circle. The influence people have on you in your inner circle is so deep, it's just like, I'm offended, honestly. It is so offensive. I am triggered right now because of it, and I cannot handle the influence, and that is why I don't have any friends. Obviously, I'm kidding. Mostly, kind of. Law 12 is the law of empowerment. It talks about letting people step into higher powers and not limiting them. It mentions Henry Ford and told his story with this in terms of what not to do. Law 13 is the law of the picture. It's this whole monkey see, monkey do mantra thing of setting the example and practicing what you preach. Again, which is like, I want to practice the stuff that I'm learning and teaching people in these videos. That's a huge reason I want to get a sales job. Law 14 is the law of buy-in. A girl who started a second company, she refined her vision from her first, and the people who believed in it really believed in it this time. They really bought in. Focus on your vision. How sold are you that it can and will work? Because that's the degree that other people will be sold from you that it can and will work. But you want people to buy into you, not just your vision. Law 16 is the law of victory. His utilization of sports examples is pretty rich in this chapter. Law 16 is the law of the big mo. Momentum. A leader's best friend, if you will. Tony Robbins says that momentum is the reason the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Maxwell talks about Ed Catmull and Pixar in this one. Law 17, I've really taught myself the importance of in the last year and a half or so. It's the law of priority, or I guess importance. Setting priorities is just, if you want the best of the best of the best in anything, know the priorities, know what matters most. If this is a little bit confusing, I recommend smashing that like button if you haven't already. For the YouTube algorithm, it helps with ranking and SEO and all this other stuff, and I really appreciate it because so much work goes into these videos. And then I recommend checking out Measure What Matters by John Doerr. I reviewed it sometime last month, and I'll drop a link to that in the description, not just the book, but also the review, if you want to know a little bit about the book first. Law 18 is the law of sacrifice, where he talks about Martin Luther King Jr. and how the higher he got up, the greater the size of the sacrifices he had to make in order to go even higher. Going a whole week without posting any of these reviews, for me, at a smaller, my own scale, that's a big enough hammer to swing. Because the payoff of getting a job in sales is like
huge!
Law 19 is the law of timing. This chapter tells the story of evacuating New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina and how it really should have happened a little bit earlier. Law 20 is the law of explosive growth. I love this one. I just love it. I love it almost as much as smashing the like button, if you haven't already, but I also love it almost as much as Marie Callender's beef pot pies, because this chapter is all about developing leaders. I mean, think of it. Would you rather be in a company where really everybody is and knows they're a leader, or a company where there's just a bunch of followers under, a couple leaders?
This is the importance of self-improvement.
I wish the whole world could see the importance of developing and educating itself. By the time I die, I want those two things, developing and educating yourself, to be completely normal across the planet. And that's why I make these videos, and that's why I appreciate you watching them. Thank you so much. I really do mean it. Law 21 is the law of legacy. I'm also obsessed with this one. I mean, what do you want people to say at your funeral? Do you ever think about that? It's a pretty cool thing to think. That's kind of creepy, but it is pretty cool. I want people to say that I was a visionary without question. It's just ambitious. It gives me something to wake up to every day. You know what I mean? But that's just me. And I'm like, what would it take? What would I need to do to make that happen? And so I'm going from there. And I think these videos and a couple other things in my life I'm still working on, which, or I guess one, which is the sales job. That's the next step. Quotes. Leadership really is art, not science. You can't give what you don't have. You can't win without good athletes, but you can lose with them. The wrong action at the right time is a mistake. Direction 1. I recommend this book if you are looking for a bird's eye view of excellent leadership. Simple as that. Direction 2. If you like this book, I recommend checking out Brene Brown's Dare to Lead or Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I think that's his name. That dude is he's very hardcore. I'll put it that way. The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books I mentioned in this video. If you want me to check out and review any other books, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know in the comments below if you checked out this book and you enjoyed it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe. If you've watched this far into the video, I don't know why anyone wouldn't, but I don't know. Again, I'm crazy, so. And if you've done all those things and you want to turn on that little notification bell to join the notification squad, every time I drop a new video, you get a notification. Obviously, I don't know what else that would mean. Then feel free to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.